Ever wanted to start your own business, write your own book, or develop your own brand? Well, have we got a treat in store for you on this episode?
We talked to author and coach John Williams, the writer of Screw Work, Let's Play, about how to be more playful with what you want to do in business and start having more fun in your life pursuing your passions.
From life as a digital nomad to the steps to transitioning from your job to your passion project, we know you'll find our discussion fascinating, insightful, and useful.
Hi, I'm James Davis.
And I'm Claire Davis.
We're the Midlife Mentors, here to lift the lid on how to achieve health and happiness.
The balanced, no-nonsense way.
Hello and welcome to our episode of the Midlife Mentors with me, James.
And me, Claire. How are you all? How are you doing? What have we been up to? I always say that at the beginning, like I can't remember the weeks. How, by the way, are we now in September? I did a podcast yesterday, being interviewed for one, and we were like, last time I looked, it was June.
I know. Well, I think all that rain just made us think that
there was no summer.
In autumn and there was no summer.
I have already requested a refund on July, though, so we should be getting an extra month at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm confident we're still going to get a bit of good weather. Anyway, what we've been up to is planning our masterclass we're delivering tomorrow night.
We are.
Well, actually, if you're listening to this, you would have already missed it.
But if you want a recording, let us know.
And getting ready to head off to the US. Very excited for that. A bit of sightseeing, a bit of networking, a bit of workshopping. Actually, delivering some workshops over there. So very excited for that.
Really excited. Not excited about the packing, because I don't think we'll be able to take, well, I won't be able to take as much as I'd like.
No, you won't.
And then we get home, and then we're home for 2 days, and then we fly off to run our retreat at Six Senses in Ibiza.
We do, yeah.
So there's still some spaces on that team. So if you want in on that, the link will be in the show notes for Ibiza. Really looking forward to that. Six Senses couldn't be a much more luxurious setting to master your midlife. So excited to do that.
Looking forward to that one. I'm also very excited about this podcast. So we have today someone joining us, an author, a business coach, a man who helps people turn their ideas into businesses, brands, and books. And I think I first read this gentleman's first book quite a few years ago, actually. I found it very inspiring. So without further ado, it's John Williams, author originally of Screw Work, Let's Play, now Fuck Work, Let's Play.
Yay!
John, welcome.
Fuck Work, Let's Play.
Hello, but thank you for inviting me.
Oh, great to have you on here.
Yeah.
So why did you rebrand the book? Why from Screw Work to Fuck Work?
Well, when I was writing the original book or planning the original book, one of my mentors said, this really ought to have a strong title. It ought to be something like Fuck Work. And I thought, well, that's a bit strong. So there was only one book back then, this is 2009, that had the word F in the title. And that was John Parkin, who wrote Fuck It, The Ultimate Spiritual Way. And I met him and he'd done very well out of it, although he did receive death threats from Church of England people, apparently, because they really take against his view of spirituality. But yeah, it was quite rare back then. So we went with Screw Work, Let's Play. And then when I proposed to Pearson that we do a 10-year anniversary edition and update things, because a lot of things I'd said were going to happen have happened in the book, but, you know, we'll see a shift towards self-employment. There'll be a lot more people working in that kind of in-betweeny space of what I call the third way, which is like not a big business that costs a fortune to set up and not in a job. It's this sort of self-employment, online business type area. And that's really happened. So I wanted to do this new book. And then about the same time, WHSmith, we're kind of looking for a business book of the month in 2020, in the summer of 2020, and they were quite keen on it to have the stronger title.
Wow!
So I updated the book completely. It's got all new stories. It's got new marketing advice in there, and a reflection on what's happened in the last 10 years since I first wrote it. That came out in 2020, and it was WHSmith Business Book of the Month. Well, actually, it became WHSmith Business Book of the Month the day they made it illegal to go into a bookshop. Because everyone went into lockdown, which is also my birthday. So Operation Fuck Up John's Life, well executed. And then it still did reasonably well. And then they made it non-fiction. Sorry, yeah. So it was Business Book of the Month 1 year, and then a year later they made it non-fiction Book of the Month, which I'm not sure which is the greater accolade. And it's done well. And it's the original book's been translated into 9 or 10 languages now. I also did, I think there's at least one translation of this new version. And I wrote a book in between called Screw Work Break Free, which is all about how to start a business in 30 days. And that's had a couple of translations as well.
Wow, amazing. Can you tell us a bit about your journey? Like, how did you come up with the idea for the Ideas Lab, which I guess is your consultancy business, and the idea for the book? What inspired you, and what was your journey there?
Well, I'd spent my first 10 years in software. I was a programmer. I was a nerd, and I was working on special effects software for ended up being used by Disney and all sorts of people, and automation software for TV studios used by the BBC. And then I consulted around the world on media technology, and went to South Africa and Austria and all sorts of other places. But what I've always really wanted to do was just do whatever I feel like doing and get paid for it. So to be able to just have ideas, have fun with them, and make money out of them. And I write about that in the book. That's kind of my big dream. And I have managed to do that now. And that's what the Ideas Lab is. So it's basically helping people turn their ideas into businesses, books, and brands that are successful, that stand out in the market, because that's my big passion. And that means I get to just co-create cool stuff for people all day. And there's lots of variety. So one of the things I write about in the book is the concept of being a scanner. I think that might be interesting for people. Shall I explain that?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, so this is a term from a US author called Barbara Sher, and I write about it in Fuck Work, Let's Play. And a scanner is somebody who has lots of ideas, lots of interests, loves learning for the sake of learning, gets bored easily. Once you've learned something, you got the gist of it, you want to move on. Good at starting things, bad at finishing things. Like if anyone's listening, put your hand up, and this is a safe space.
Me. Claire's just shooting me. Look.
It's also partly me as well, to be honest, but definitely James.
A lot of entrepreneurs are like that. And you have to embrace it, because what we bring to things are our breadth. So the breadth is really beneficial. So scanners have had a hard time throughout history. They're called dilettantes, jack of all trades, master of none. In actual fact, if you read that whole quote of jack of all trades, master of none, it goes on to be quite complimentary to people who are jack of all trades. I can't remember what it is now, but it's worth Googling. But we only quote the first few words of it, which sound like an insult. And that breadth is very, very useful for things like, in my work, I can connect with a ridiculously wide range of topics, from endocrinology to software design and AI, psychology and psychotherapy, which I'm very passionate about, and hundreds of other topics. And so I can lock in on people's ideas really, really quickly. There aren't many things where I just go like, I've got no idea about this. And that's very beneficial. It's also very useful for writers. It's very good for journalists, for cultural critics, for people who just want to do lots of little ideas, lots of startups. So there's a kind of, in the tech world now, the model is, instead of having one big startup that, kills you to launch, and you get funding and you feel like you've got a gun to your head for 3 years, and either you cash out with $100 million or you completely die. There's this indie hacker world where you go, like, I've got an idea and I'm going to hack it together on my laptop and see if it works. And maybe it'll make me $5,000 a month. Maybe it'll make me $10,000 a month. Maybe someone will want to buy it for $1 million or $2 million. That's actually not a bad result for most of us, and particularly because that's recurring income. So there are lots of ways now to make a living as a scanner that there weren't before, but you need to get a grip of it, because if you don't finish anything, then you're really going to have a very unsatisfying and very poor life as a scanner.
I think that will resonate with so many people. I mean, I know it does resonate with me as well. And I know I was smiling at James when you said that, but it's really nice to hear actually someone say that it's not a bad thing as long as you do finish things. You know, it's great to have, we have these conversations all the time in our business. We've got so many ideas. Yeah. And it frustrates both of us that we do need to finish certain things before we move on to the next things. Like, that's definitely a skill we've had to learn, because we were exactly like that at one point. We would start something, not finish it, move on, get frustrated, get bored. So totally resonates with us, and will definitely resonate with lots of other people. So thank you.
Yeah, and the key is, you don't get paid for following your passions. You get paid for delivering value, for creating value. Now, following your passion allows you to create more value than other people, because for things I read for fun and watch on TV for fun are pretty much exactly the same as I write about and I help people in their business. You know, I read marketing books because they fascinate me. I'm reading the Elon Musk biography, the new one, because it fascinates me. But they're all lessons in there that I can use in my work. So they completely merge. And so it does give you an advantage. But if you don't finish anything and ship it, you've got to actually deliver stuff to the world. So there's this concept in Fuck What Let's Play of it's in Secret 3 of how to get started right away. And I talk about a play project. And a play project is where if you have an idea and you want to press go on it, then you create a 30-day play project out of it. And a play project is where you choose something you would do even if it didn't work out, just because you're interested in it. But you also, your goal is to produce something and share it with your audience or your target market in 30 days, and preferably as you go along. So if you want to be a songwriter, don't just write 10 songs and stick them in a drawer. Write 1 to however many songs and go and perform them or record them and put them on Facebook and go like, I'm really embarrassed. My internal critics tell me these are terrible, but I'm just going to share these and just let me know what you think. You know, just encourage me. And you get generally a really good response if you do that. And people are, too scared normally to do it. And same with businesses, like, rather than, you don't need a flipping website for most businesses until you've made your first sale. People really have a problem getting their head around this. But I always try to get my clients, I hold them back and go like, don't build a website. If you already got one, it's fine. Just don't build a website yet until you've sold your first thing. And they go, oh, I don't understand. Well, no one's going to look at your website. Your first sales will come from you talking to people who probably already know in some capacity, explaining what you do, and then going like, oh, actually, I could kind of use that. And you go, okay, it costs £100 or £1,000 or £10,000. Do you want it? And they go like, yeah, I'll do that. And go, okay, PayPal me the money and let's get started. And that's basically how you sell the first few things you're doing. And later you can have all the trappings of, coherent social media strategy and websites and so on.
Yeah, I think that's such a really important point to make, because it was definitely a trap that we fell in, because we had another business called 38 Degrees North, which is our retreats business. And we used to rewrite, well, this is me actually. I used to rewrite that website, and then I'd go back and do it again. And then I'd create something else. And I'd spend hours doing social media stuff. But actually, what really needed to be done was go out there, network with people, grow your audience, all that kind of stuff. So again, massively resonates with me. Just don't do the website first. It's a really important point. So John, you've helped so many people transition from traditional careers to more unconventional paths. What are some of the common challenges people face when making that transition, and how can they overcome them?
I think there's a lot of fear, but it's not unjustified. I mean,
no, exactly.
I don't recommend people quit their job. I mean, the point at which to quit your job, because people often ask that, is there's several stages to the process which are mapped out in that book, in Fuck What Let's Play. And the first one is deciding, it's coming up with ideas for what you would like to do, what you'd enjoy doing. And then there's making the choice. and then was running some sort of test project, a play project. And what you're trying to do there is you're trying to prove what's called in the startup world product market fit. And very few people outside the startup world talk about this concept, which is odd to me because it's so fundamental. But what you need to do is, you're not doing marketing at the early stages. What you're trying to do is prove that you've got it right. So you sell in the same way I described. You said you go networking. You go and talk to people and you find out, like, we're creating this thing, like we're creating a retreat or whatever it is you're creating. And it's got, this is the idea. What do you think? And they go like, oh, it sounds like my kind of thing. But I'd only come if it had this. Or it would have to be cheap, or it would have to be high end, or it'd have to be, I'd want business advice, or I'd want to like have phones back. I don't know what it is, right? Until you speak to your target market, you think you know, but you don't. And then when you ask, you actually find out, oh, they all want this thing, which I thought wasn't even important, but I'm cool with doing that. And I'd like to do that. Then you have a proposition and you sell it. So when you're in a job, what you want to do is go through that phase of thinking of all the options, choosing one, going out and doing a play project where you try and do it in your spare time, do that ideally multiple times, get paid for it several times, and make sure that the numbers work that you can imagine getting, because if you're getting paid £50, you're going to have to sell an awful lot of this thing to make it work. But you want to get to the point where you go like, okay, this is actually starting to make some money and I can't fit it in with my job anymore. So, how many can you do at the weekend or whatever it is you're doing? How much of it can you do in your spare time? When you've got more demand than you can cope with, that's the kind of time you might want to think about quitting your job. Or maybe going part-time and saying, can I do, like I've got a client at the moment is looking at going from 5 days a week to 4 days a week. And then eventually, would like to transition to doing what we're creating together full-time.
We do get asked that question quite a lot, even in what we do, because what we do overlaps, I suppose, that passion and purpose and, wanting midlife, asking questions about what makes me happy and actually what might I want to do with the rest of my life. Is the job I'm doing making me happy? And most often than not, it's actually I have this passion project, so let's see if it works. And that is always a question we get asked. How am I going to bridge the gap between having the money coming in and starting something new? And like you said, there is a lot, and quite rightly so, there is a lot of fear around taking those risks. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's not easy. I'm not here to pretend that's an easy transition, and it can take time. And there's normally a point at which I call the crunch, where you got this thing taking off, you got your job over here, you're not really feeling rock solid, and it's like two trains coming at you, and at some point you have to jump. And I can't say for anybody when that point is, but it's not like you're smoothly going to step out of your job and go into a full-time income from the sideline. That's extremely unlikely to happen. I mean, your best chance is to do what I did, where I went consulting. So I was at Deloitte and I was a senior managing consultant there. And I didn't like Deloitte. I didn't like, other people, it's their dream job. I was sort of 2 steps below partner right from joining. And I did not want to be partner at all because it just seemed horrific. You get very rich being a partner, but oh God, no, it's just not my thing at all. Trying to care about the sort of tax savings of some giant corporation or something. I mean, I was on the consulting side rather than the accounting side, but there's still like that vibe to it. And I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll go out and I'll consult on this area of broadcast technology, which is my specialism of media technology, and I'll do it independently, and then I can get paid twice as much as my kind of, if you take my salary and benefits and divide it by 365, or something like that, or by however many working days there are, if I can get paid twice as much, I can take half my time off and do all these other things like writing and stuff. And in the end, I managed to get paid 4 times as much. And so I only need to work 3 months of the year. And it took quite a long time to find those projects, but it paid me very well. And that allowed me some space in between. At the time, I was studying as a psychotherapist. I was doing stand-up comedy and getting into writing. I think, I can't remember, that was maybe, I was also in a museum exhibit at one point, but I think that was before then. So I was doing all this sort of crazy, interesting ideas. And then eventually I had to kind of jump and start this new business, and trying to make it work as well as I could.
So I guess what you're saying there is, if people have got this fear, is to build your confidence gradually, taking the steps where you can, till you're starting to feel you've got the comfort to go for it, rather than just leaping out from one thing to the other. Yeah,
definitely. Get some sales as an absolute minimum. Make the decision of what you're going to do and get some sales. The worst thing you can do really is leave without even knowing what you're going to do. Because I can tell you, because right now when you're in a job, you might think that's your dream life. You get up in the morning, you just do whatever you want to do. In actual fact, it normally brings on a kind of existential crisis in people, because it's one thing when you retire. It's difficult enough when you're retired. I mean, some people, kind of die quite quickly afterwards as a result, because they haven't really done the thinking about who they are and what they want and what is meaningful to them when they don't have to go to work anymore. So, I'd advocate doing that thinking earlier. But aside from that, it's also the fact that now you've got possibly limited funds, and the clock is ticking down. And that's a very difficult state in which to try to do blue sky thinking. You can work hard and kind of, once you've decided and you're trying to get a business off the ground, you will often have a kind of limited runway. A lot of startups do. But even if they got funding, but it's different from trying to do that kind of like, what do I really want to be when I grow up? That's very difficult to do when you're watching your savings go.
Yeah. I've been there. We've both been there. I mean, I've taken some crazy stupid risks that ended up going back into a career that I didn't want to do. So, and that doesn't bring about confidence. That actually lowers your self-esteem. And like, if I'd have had, I was very spontaneous when I was young and doing stuff like that. And I was like, I don't like this job anymore. I went freelance in PR. I don't like this job anymore. So I'm going to go freelance. I don't like freelancing anymore. So I'm just going to stop completely and just figure this out. Go traveling around the world. And then obviously your funds go down. You haven't got, this is exactly what happened to you. Your funds go down and you think, well, I haven't figured anything out at all, because I haven't actually had a process. I've just been going around the world having a jolly good time. I haven't actually had a process, which is what your book offers actually, and is absolutely the right thing to do. So you end up just going back into the thing you left and just feeling even worse about yourself. Yeah,
I mean, sometimes, there's no one way of doing it. I mean, sometimes you do need to, sort of around the world for 6 months, because sometimes it's some moment when you're sitting there on a rock looking out at the sunset and you go like, oh yeah, actually, I just want to do this. And you do get some of those kind of insights. But I think it's much better to be experimenting and doing things. You'd be better off tripping around the world, digital nomading, and working from your laptop and trying different things. That is likely. I mean, take a month off by all means if you can afford it, and just have fun. But after that, do the digital nomad thing, work remotely on your laptop, try some things out, and that will give you more information. And in the book, there's like secret one is sort of how to work out what you really, really want, which is a reference to the Spice Girls. And you can tell I'm a serious literary figure. And that's all about, working out, first of all, working out what do you like and what do you not like. You come up with a bunch of options. And then in the second phase, then you start to narrow them down. And where people go wrong is they mush those two processes together. And one requires divergent thinking and one requires convergent thinking. So they're different thinking processes. So you want to do I think it's good to do them on separate days. So you spend one day just coming up with all the crazy ideas of what you'd like to do. Some of them will be sensible ideas, like freelancing and what you've done before, exactly the same thing, but freelancing, or freelancing in PR, but for this market, or, with tweaks. And then some could be, I don't know what, I want to go and join a nunnery or whatever it might be. So you want to mix a few sensible, crazy things and then just have fun with it, put it away for the day, come back, maybe add some more. And then a day later go, okay, what are the 3 options out of here I want to properly research. And maybe you pick 2 of the sensible ones and 1 of the slightly wild one. And then there's a worksheet you can get if you go to fworkletsplay.com. In fact, you can download it, where you can break down the pros and cons of each option. So now you're doing a convergent thinking of like, you're narrowing your options. And what this does, if you do this properly, you should drop out of 1 clear answer, and which you can then go and do a play project around. You don't quit your job, sell your house, and bank 300 grand on it, whatever it is. You do a play project for 30 days, which costs you, should be absolutely, but almost any business you can try out for pretty much no money. And if you don't believe that, you can read the book and you'll understand why. But and that's the kind of progression. And where people go wrong is they come up with an idea and they go like, oh, well, that won't work because of X, and they throw it away. And they come up with an idea, they get really excited about it, and then they go like, oh, but I haven't got that degree, so they throw it away. And then at the end of the day, they go, well, I haven't got any ideas. Go, you just have 10 of them. You just throw them in the bin. Write them all down. Every problem is going to have some snag to it, because if it didn't, you'd already be doing it. So then you need to get creative and brainstorm ways around that snag, that problem. Like, I don't have a degree in whatever, or I don't know anybody in publishing who can get me a book deal, or I don't, whatever it is. All these problems are solvable by and large.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that.
Yeah. John, you touched there on books. Talked a lot about building businesses, but you help people with their non-fiction books as well. Is that a similar kind of process?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarity. People think they're completely unrelated, but what you're doing is you're creating a value proposition. And in a book, it's a book. And if you're doing an online course, it's a course. And if it's a consulting service to corporations, it's still a thing. And you're finding a way to give people something valuable, but it's just in different packages. So yeah, one of the things I do is I help people with their books and like, what are we going to call it? How do we create this viral hook? How do we create something that makes it stand out? So a couple of examples, I helped Helen Sanderson with her book, The Secret Life of Clutter, which is a great title in the end. And I think that was one of hers, but I was, helping them come up with titles and subtitles, and also helped her with some of the structure of the book and make sure that the book promoted her business, which is decluttering. I helped her then create a course off the back of that, which she runs online. I also helped Jessica Rose, who runs a very successful business around jewelry courses and teaching people how to make jewelry. And the book was about how to make money out of jewelry, because lots of people are hand making jewelry, but basically making no money at all. And in fact, if they did the sums, they might find out it's costing them money when they think it's making them some money. I mean, so it's fine to do as a hobby, but some people are trying to do it as a business. And so we renamed this book as a result, How to Start and Run a Profitable Jewelry Business, because that was the key word. And then position the whole book around that. And the book is 25 quid book. It's like that thick and it weighs.
Wow.
It's beautiful. It's like a coffee table book, and lots of photos of Jessica in there and jewelry and stuff. And that ended up #1 in her category in Amazon, despite being a £25 book. It's quite something to get a lot of books to get to #1 are like 99p on Kindle. So it's quite something to get a £25 book to #1.
That's fantastic.
That's good fun. I love doing that process of like, what's the hook here?
Yeah. You actually mentioned about digital nomad going around the world with your laptop and things. Obviously, when I went around the world, and actually when you went around the world as well, we did that separately because we weren't together then. That wasn't an option, I didn't even, I think a mobile phone was still a luxury. But just talking about that, how do you see the future of work evolving? I know you've mentioned this kind of piece in the middle, especially with tech, where they're going with the future of tech, but especially in light of recent global events that have shifted the way we think about work-life balance. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we're going to see more and more people go self-employed because there are so many different ways of doing it now. And it seemed inevitable to me that during the lockdowns of 2020, when people were forced to work at home, on their own, you know, on my laptop and work remotely, it obviously wouldn't be a very, I think that was inevitably going to cause a big uptick in self-employment. We have seen that. We've seen like more companies were formed during 2020 than any year for many years. And people went self-employed and they started online businesses, and they, you know, Shopify saw like a massive boost, understandably. And all these things really took off. And I think it was a combination of factors. One is like, if I'm sitting at home working for myself, working on my own on a laptop, why can't I be doing that for myself and like have all the flexibility and not have to answer to my boss and so on? And the other thing is just because it was quite shocking at the beginning of the pandemic in particular, it made people, I think, unless they're really good at blocking their thoughts out, think like, what do I want to do in my life? Like, what is, if a world can change this dramatically, this quickly, like, what do I actually want my life to be about? Because who knows what's going to happen. And some people are saying like this pandemic will never end and we'll never be able to go outside again and stuff like that, you know, geez. Thankfully, it did not turn out to be the case. But, you know, it was a scary time. So I do think we're going to see, you know, as technology improves, that's going to become more and more the case. I think a lot of people just haven't worked out that you can, that you can go work remotely. You know, if they don't know the scene that I'm part of. If you pick the right country and the right city, you know, if it's Ubud or Canggu in Bali, or you know, various parts of Thailand and Lisbon and wherever else, there's hundreds of these places. You can immediately have a social life. You know, particularly if you're on your own, connect with people who are friendlier than they ever are in London. Even the Londoners are friendlier out there than they are in London, you know, speaking as a Londoner. And so I make more friends in 1 month in a digital nomad location than I do in 5 years in London. It's just really easy. And you can work remotely, you can work at home, you can work in co-working centers, you can work in cafes, you can go out every night. You know, I went to Mexico at the beginning of this year. I mean, almost every night there was something going on. That was in Playa del Carmen. And yeah, so I think that's going to become more and more popular. I think AI is a really unknown quantity. So I also run, by the way, I run a live event called AIQ, which is me being a scanner. And all my coaches went like, don't do that, John. Just don't fucking do that. Don't start another thing. And I'm like, I've got to. So I launched this live event called AIQ, as in raise your AIQ, know more about AI. And the next one is on the 9th of October in London, which is in 2023. And if anyone wants to find out about that, you can go to raiseyouraiq.com. And it basically, I feel like there's a lot of people going like, oh yeah, AI, wow, it can do weird, funny little things, and that's cool, and maybe it's going to change the world. But most people aren't actually using it. So they've logged into ChatGPT once at most and gone, wow, that's interesting, and then just never logged in again.
Me.
Or, yeah, they've seen these Mid-Journey images, these images generated by AI, and go, wow, it's incredible. But they've never used it themselves because it's really hard to use Mid-Journey. It's a pain in the ass. And so I ran these things in front of people live. I showed all the incredible things AI is doing that really blows your mind. And then I got people to give us ideas for things in the room that we would generate as images. We launched a business in the room. We took ideas from people, and somebody said, how about a dating app that stops people ghosting you? So I went to ChatGPT live on the screen and said, how do you make a dating app that stops people ghosting? And it goes, yeah, sure, just do these 7 things.
No way.
It says, would you like me to create a website and do a promotional video? And I went, yes, I would. And so it created a 60-second video, which with stock footage, with a script that was spoken out loud. Somebody going like, dating can be hard. There's a person looking sad, looking at their phone. And then it created a website as well on the spot. And this is when people start to realize like, oh shit, this is really something.
Yeah.
So we're running, the next one is about how to use AI to create your social media content on Monday the 9th.
Oh, damn it, we're not here.
We're away.
Away.
When's the next one after that, John?
I don't know. It's been a bit sporadic. I was going to do them every month, but it's such, I got quite busy with this book because I've been doing the proposal and stuff, the next book, sorry. And I'm working on this course. I'm launching a 12-month course and an introductory course called Crazy Magnetic. And so, yeah, I got a little distracted with that. And I was enjoying the summer. So, and I couldn't get my speakers to turn up any sooner because I've got these two great speakers. One of them's a former Google AI person. And so that's our next one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know when we're not here. We'll come to
if that sounds amazing, but it does segue in quite nicely into, we're just going to ask, what else have you got coming up that people with you on?
So I spent, for the last couple of years, I focused on doing one-to-one. I used to run a big group program called the Pioneer Program, but I wanted to try doing just one-to-one work with people. And that was an interesting experiment because, I mean, I've done one-to-one in various forms, but basically high ticket one-to-one, which is, it costs like £7,000 to £12,000. So there's a particular way of selling that kind of work and finding the right person and me feeling through who I want to work with in order to get them a result that's worth that kind of money. And I really enjoyed that for 2 years. And now I'm going to go into kind of hybrid model. I'm going to have a very affordable program that runs for a year that is related to this new book, but hopefully I'm going to find out. I've got a book deal next Wednesday, which is called Crazy Successful. So the course will be related to that. And then I will do some one-to-one options over the top. And I think that combination will be the most powerful yet, because I want everybody to be able to access these ideas. I mean, obviously you can buy the book, but when we get into the nitty-gritty of what do I do on LinkedIn, John, you can't really put that in a book because it goes out of date so fast. So that's what we cover in the course. And in particular, how to use what's different about you to make your thing, your business, your product, your course, your book stand out in the world. And that's what I think is going to be really interesting. So I'm calling it, rather than a business accelerator, it's a business differentiator. Because that's what I found, is that if you create something that is distinct, then you still have to do marketing. It's not like you can opt out of marketing, but your marketing will have 10 times the power of if your stuff looks like other people's stuff, and you have to kind of just ram home the message with incredible ferocity, because that's the only way to get people to actually pay any attention.
Love that.
Wow, love that. That sounds fab. Yeah. And John, where can people connect with you? Where can they find you? What are your handles and URLs as she comes?
Handles.
Yeah. So if you, I'm most active on Facebook and LinkedIn. And if you look at my full name, John Spencer Williams, you'll find me, because otherwise you get the dude who wrote Star Wars music. So John Spencer Williams is where I am. I've got a Facebook group, which again, you should be able to find by putting in John Spencer Williams. And you can find out more about the book, the Fuck Work Let's Play book, at fworkletsplay.com. You can download a bunch of resources there that are free. And at the risk of giving too many links, my main website is theideaslab.org. And on there, you can download a 12-page free guide to some of my thinking around marketing and making yourself stand out. And it's a very good, quite chunky introduction to my thinking, particularly on marketing.
Love that.
Fantastic.
Listen, listeners, we're going to put all of those links in the show notes as well. So you don't need to have remembered those. We'll put those links to John's websites and handles and social media connections all in the show notes. But it's been so amazing. This is why we love having such interesting guests on our podcast. And I just know, this is why James and I wanted to have you on, John, is because we know so many of the people that go through our programs and that are in our connected world are asking themselves this question at this time of life, particularly, is like, what, and because of, like you said, with COVID and the way the world's changed, everyone's asking themselves some very poignant questions about what is my passion, what's my purpose here, what do I want to do. So this has been such an important conversation to have. So thank you for being here.
No, my pleasure. Yeah, it's fun. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Midlife Mentors with Claire and James Davis.
We'd love to hear from you. So drop us a line at info@themidlifementors.com with any questions or topic suggestions.
And make sure you join us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. You can find us under the Midlife Mentors.
Yeah.